What's up, guys, and welcome to Press A Repeatedly. My name is Justin Tomasello, and it's been 2 weeks since my last podcast.
And I'm Chris Gold. It's also been 2 weeks. We finally thawed out long enough to actually record this show, and we're really happy to be here since it's the first episode of 2018, and oh my god, it is bitterly cold outside right now.
I was going for like an Alcoholics Anonymous thing, and you didn't pick up on it, and I'm very ashamed of you.
Well, I'm sorry. My brain has been frozen into it's like half frozen solid, like it's got freezer burn, and it's not functioning properly. You'll have to forgive me. The wind chill outside is literally, I think, in the negatives.
But yes, indeed. What's up, guys, and welcome to the new year, 2018. PAR is back. We had 2 refreshing weeks off. We just ended with our 2017 Game of the Year blowout. It went fantastic, and we're ready to start a new year, man.
Yeah, it was really a great show. I'm really happy with how the process played out, but yeah, man, that break was very needed. But you know what was even more needed? New episodes of Press A Repeatedly. So we are back when we are ready to deliver, and I'm ready to get the new year rocking and rolling, man.
We're refreshed and recharged, and today's episode is going to be very similar to our first episode of last year when we talked about our top 5 most anticipated games for the coming year. And, of course, then it was 2017, and today we're going to be talking about the games coming up for 2018.
We took some time during our break when we weren't fighting off starvation and eating each other to survive. And we took a little time to review the coming games for 2018 and see which ones were the ones that piqued our curiosity the most. And not to get into it a little too early, but a little foreshadowing, I guess. But Justin, I was kind of underwhelmed, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's funny. When I was putting this list together, I was recalling back to last year where I knew in my head immediately the 5 games I was going to put on that list. I mean, I had Zelda and Night in the Woods, these games I've been following for a long time. And then this year, I actually had to look up on different websites and everything to find out exact release dates and try and figure out, what was actually confirmed for this year. And just kind of go through the list and think of ideas. I didn't have any sitting in the back of my mind ready to talk about. So that's not to say there's not big games coming out this year, but I didn't feel a fire, I guess, for these games that I did for the previous year.
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, the year is literally brand new. It's only, it's not even a week old as we are recording this, but there's still plenty of time for new games to come out and just really wow us and knock our socks off. But the lineup that I'm seeing this year is just kind of underwhelming. Which, we're coming off an absolutely amazing year where 2017 seemingly was stacked with amazing releases week after week after week. So we were spoiled a little bit.
Yeah, it's a tough act to follow. But yeah, with these past 2 weeks off, we've both spent a lot of time catching up and playing a lot of games. So, we might as well just get right into it. We've got a lot to talk about. So, Chris, let me ask you for the first time in 2018, what are you playing? What are you playing?
I didn't play any video games. No,
I hate you so much.
That is not true. I did play video games. Of course I played video games.
We should mention, because it's very possible that we have played the same game over the past 2 weeks, that if one of us mentions a game that we both played, that we could both talk about it at that time.
All right. Yeah, that's the way we've always done it. First one I'm going to talk about is just playing more of our 2017 Game of the Year winner, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Nice.
Yeah, after we talked about the game and went over and over and over it during our deliberations, honestly, I got the itch to play the game again. It's just such a fantastic experience. I mean, we talked about it ad nauseum last year in a ton of episodes in our Game of the Year episode, plus around the time when the game was released. And mostly I was going around trying to figure out the main the DLC quests. So like they have a lot of different outfits. Like they have the fish tunic that Link wore in the Wind Waker. That is a DLC that you can find. You can find the chest if you go to a specific location.
Oh, the blue shirt with the white lobster on it.
Yes.
I want
Yeah.
that shirt like in real life.
Dude, same. That that shirt looks amazing, and it looks so comfortable too. Like it's just kind of like flappy, and it's like I got big sleeves to it. Like it looks very comfortable to wear, especially on a tropical island.
Yes, indeed.
Let me see. There was also Phantom Ganon armor from like in Ocarina of Time. So you have like the headset, you have the full body armor, you have the boots, and you literally run around and you look like you're Phantom Ganon. Like you've got the cape billowing, you've got the skull mask over your head. It's really awesome. And I also completed the Champions Ballad DLC.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So the culmination of all that, and that was a long, arduous trek. I think I talked about it briefly last time I talked about Breath of the Wild, that I had just started the Champions Ballad. And yeah, I got through that main quest, which last time I talked about, it was called the Frickin' Obliterator, which had like the four prongs to it, and it killed enemies in one hit.
Correct. Yes.
I was talking with Lewis afterwards, so literally just after we recorded that episode, and he referred to it as the much better name of the Shiny Forks. I realized, oh god, like I wish I had heard that name before recording, because that's such a better name for it. So yeah, like you have the Shiny Forks, and you go through and you defeat the enemy camps, and then the Shiny Forks explode, and each one of the forks goes to a different corner of the world, and you have to, at each one of those forks, at each four, you have to complete 3 tasks at each location, so that you can go back into the Divine Beast and defeat the boss in there again. But you only have a limited amount of weapons that you can choose from. That took forever. Because, I mean, because you get these little pillars and you have to take a picture. Like, it shows you a map of, like, oh, here's where you have to go for the next thing to find a task. And you have to look at that picture and say, okay, where on my map is that picture located? And you have to kind of pinpoint it on your map and guess where it is, and just kind of go to that spot and hope that you were right.
Like when you're doing the memories, basically the same concept.
Pretty much, yeah. It's very similar concept to that, except it's not showing like a picture of, oh, here's the environment and here's where you need to stand. It's just kind of like, you know how Google Maps has the street view, and then they have like the satellite view where you can see like all the grass and buildings or whatever?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it looks like.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so you have to kind of look, okay, here's what the layout here looks like. Where on my map is this same area? Now, I mean, you only have to look kind of in that corner of the map. It's not going to be like on the opposite side of the world. But it was still very annoying to have to go through all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I go through all that. You unlock the main boss, which I'm not going to spoil here. You defeat that boss, and then you unlock this bomb-ass horse motorcycle that you can summon at any time and ride around wherever.
Now, does that feel like it breaks the game, kind of, like to have a motorcycle in this world where, like, there aren't really any motor-powered things?
You would think that, but how much this sort of breaks the immersion of the game, like, oh, it's a fantasy environment, now here's this, like, mechanical thing. that illusion is that immersion breaking is outweighed by how freaking awesome it is riding this motorcycle around. You can like pop wheelies and just like spin donuts everywhere. And you can like ride past enemies and like just slash the hell out of them. It's so awesome. I love riding this thing around everywhere. And you can summon it at any time. Like it becomes similar to a rune.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of the horse motorcycle. It gets my full endorsement.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any of the DLC yet, and I'm definitely going to. I'm just a little disappointed because I was expecting more. I wanted it to be more of a straightforward story thing. I wanted them to maybe add a whole new section to the map, and it doesn't sound like they're really doing any of that. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, they don't really add too much to the map. In terms of story, you do get after you complete each of the Divine Beast areas, like once you beat the boss again, you get kind of like a little memory glimpse back into like the time when Zelda was asking each of the champions if they would become a champion for her.
Okay, that's
And
worth
then-
it for me because I really enjoy those parts of the game.
Yeah, and then at the very end of it, you get this final memory that shows everyone all together, and it's pretty awesome. Like it's just kind of heartwarming a little,
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bittersweet though because
Yeah.
you know like what happens to everyone at the end, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, you sold me on that then.
Let me see. So that was Zelda. I also saw you and your brother raving about this other game that I played, and I finally said, you know what, I'm gonna bite the bullet. I heard everyone else raving about it. I'm gonna pick this up for the Switch, and so I played and beat SteamWorld Dig 2.
Oh, nice. I have a lot to talk about for that.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. Like, I mean, I had known about the first SteamWorld Dig, and I admit I was just kind of like, whatever. It wasn't really too excited about it, but everything I had heard about SteamWorld Dig 2 was from like you guys. You were all raving about it. Everyone online was talking about how they wish they could have listed it on their Game of the Year lists. And so I picked it up, and I gotta say, this game really, really blew me out of the water. Like, it is fantastically designed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love the art style. I love the music is so kick-ass, especially the town theme is just like, I can stand there and listen to that all day. It's awesome. Even not just that, but even like in the cave, like the atmospheric, very like earthy kind of music is all very fitting. It sounds great. The controls feel great. The digging is great. It's a very rewarding system. I feel like the progression it's way better than the first one, where they keep giving you things to unlock that makes the digging a little bit easier, get a little bit farther, a little bit less of a chore, and also the game really helps you a lot in a ways that most games don't, where there are multiple warp points that bring you back to town, very easily, very encouraging you to go back. And, like, even if you wanted to go down, dig up one ore, and then go back to town, like, you could do that no problem, no penalty. And the skill tree with the cog system, how you can rearrange that to however you want. Basically, you could set, put in points for one ability, and then later realize, oh, I don't need this ability anymore, or I don't like it. And you can just take out those cogs and put it into something else. I mean, that's really cool, too.
I love the customizability of it all, and I love the open world like exploration of it. Like, a lot of times you have an open world game like that, and you have different waypoints marked on the map for you. This game literally just lets you say, okay, here's where you're starting out, and I love how it shows like the map zooms out. Okay, here's where you need to go, and it just covers this wide swath of black at just empty nothingness, and it's like, okay, this point right here is where you need to go. And a lot of times I think, oh god, like I gotta dig all the way down to there. Like, where do I even go? What do I even do? And that feeling of like exploration as you're just digging down and you're filling out the map as you go and kind of discovering, okay, here's how everything is laid out, here's how it all works together. That was really cool, and that was really, really well done.
Yeah, definitely. I'm shocked that you beat it. That's awesome. I'm about 6.5 hours in. I feel like I'm probably getting pretty close to the end, but I'm just having a lot of fun, like exploring. I mean, the game has these different treasures that you can find that you can kind of turn in to unlock a new ability, and you can like every cave that you go in. If you find everything in the cave when you leave it, it gets marked with a green checkpoint. And so I spent a lot of time going back through all these old caves that don't have the checkpoint to see if I have the abilities now that are required to really explore the whole place and find everything that that cave has to offer. And I spent a good like 2 or 3 hours just doing that and not even messing with progressing into the mine deeper and farther. So even on that level, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I also like as you're digging and exploring for wherever it is you want to go next, there's all sorts of different, like, oh, here's gems. There are different enemies that are buried in the dirt, like those giant beetle things. And if you can dig to where they're hatching quick enough, you can actually burst them so you don't have to deal with them.
It sounds such a horrifying statement, but yeah, all that is true. And if that was in real life, that if I was like digging and saw like a beetle the size of me like just burst out of the ground, I think I probably would just explode in fear.
God, yeah, you and me both. That's the last thing I need when I'm digging down in the dark in a confined space, and this giant beetle just shows up, and it's definitely big enough to eat me. Yeah, I'm gonna poop myself to death. That's just a given. But it has like all sorts of different like secrets and little tiny passageways that are hidden all over. It's got the caves that are littered all over that you can go in and explore to find like more treasure and even and like more cogs that are hidden away in them.
Yeah, right.
I really liked that sense of exploration. I liked the story behind it. I thought it was kind of a low key story, but it had enough stakes to like keep you like invested in it and say, okay, you want to try to save the town from these earthquakes that are ravaging everything. What happened to Rusty from the first game? All these mysteries that were just kind of like laid out for you were really good motivation to keep you going and to keep playing the game.
I'm glad you said that because I forgot to write that down. And just the idea of like having this story, this game that starting playing, you're not really thinking you're gonna really worry about the story too much, but as you go and like you start to kind of figure out what's going on and like you're meeting these different characters, and it's kind of like it's interesting. It definitely does keep you going.
Yeah, it does. The characters themselves were really unique, really, really well designed. They all have all the unique shapes and different personalities to them. I really liked Dot's character. Fen is a really fun, interesting character. Yeah, I mean, it's just really, really solidly built, solidly written. The boss battles are really fun and challenging. Like the boss battles are not so tough where you can't overcome them, but they're not walks in the park either. Like you really have to know what you're doing to overcome them, which is perfect. Yeah, honestly, like I don't really have too many flaws to talk about with this game.
I have one gripe that is kind of what I was worried about, is that it's the more I play, the deeper I get in, it's starting to feel a little bit repetitive of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But I don't know if that's necessarily a gripe because I don't really know how you could design a game like this without having that, mechanic in there. I think it's just something that you kind of have to get used to. And it definitely feels a lot better than the first game because I tired out of the first game pretty quickly. And I know that the progression system in this game is a huge step up, which helps it stay a lot more fresh for a lot longer. But yeah, overall, I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I definitely want to beat it. And I'm glad you played it and beat it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really glad I played and beat it too. It's really a fun time. Not gonna lie, like that's really all I really want to talk about for this week. So I'm gonna throw it back over to you. What are you playing?
All right, cool. And actually, you can help me out with this next one, Chris, because I played this game on your recommendation, and that
Hmm.
is Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's right. You did. Yeah, you did pick that one up. So tell me all about Doki Doki Literature Club.
Well, here's the thing. It's very hard to discuss this game. So
Yeah,
I
you
almost
can't yeah, it's hard to describe this game without spoiling the heck out of it.
yeah, I almost didn't even bring it up today, but I feel like I should because I did play for a few hours and did get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything at all. But basically, it's a visual novel that has a twist, and that's all really I'll say about it. But the twist is very it's a very worthwhile thing to check out. It's very surprising, and I would say that they the way they lead up to it and the way they commit to the visual novel style is very impressive. In fact, it had me, you had told me, you enticed me to play the game because you know my distaste for visual novel types
Right.
of games.
Yes, you are notoriously a hater of visual novels. But I insisted to you that you grind through and play this one.
Yeah. And overall, I'm really glad I did. It was a very interesting take on the genre, and really great illustrations too. And I'm not sort of really into this style game at all, but I do appreciate the artwork and everything. I thought the writing was really good. You actually start to feel a connection with the characters, and yeah, there's so much I want to say, but I really can't. So, if you're interested at all, if you like to be surprised, I would say go check it out, and I'll probably just leave it at that.
If you could rank the girls, how would you rank them?
Uh, let's see, maybe Yuri and Monica, and I forget the other two. Soroya, Sayora,
Sayori, and
Sayori.
Natsuki.
Yeah, Natsuki at the bottom. I didn't like her attitude.
Yeah, if I had to rank, I would say Sayori, Monica, Yuri, falling off a cliff, getting hit by a bus before your body hits the ground from the cliff,
Right.
landing in a pile of cactus,
Mm-hmm.
getting eaten by coyotes,
Mm-hmm.
having those coyotes with my body parts in their stomachs getting shot by hunters.
And then hit by a bus.
And then those hunters and the coyotes are both hit by a bus. Then Natsuki.
Okay, yeah, that's a very fair list. I think I can agree with that.
Yeah, it's probably the most fair ranking I can give.
Yeah. But visual novel fans, check it out. And people that are in the market for something new and interesting and surprising, check it out.
Right. Quick thing. I don't want to spoil anything, but the game itself lists right before you start that the game is disturbing and should not be played by small children. It has a lot of content warnings and trigger warnings. Heed those. If you those are not a joke. I don't want to spoil too much, but if you are easily disturbed by violent imagery, then you may want to shy away. But otherwise, or if you're curious, then yes, go ahead and pick up the game.
Yes.
What else you got?
Okay, so then I also bought Fez was on sale this week for 99 cents on Steam.
Ooh, that's a callback.
Yeah, yeah. So that's, one of the original like indie games, I guess you could say, when they started getting really popular.
Yeah, this was
like,
one of the first indie games that like there had always been indie games, but this
Yeah.
was like one of the first indie games that was like a big thing that everybody had to go out and play like right away.
Yeah, it's well documented in that movie, Indie Game the movie that's on Netflix.
Right.
Uh,
Which, if you haven't watched that, please do. It's really well done.
yeah, it's a fantastic movie. But yeah, that was the first time I saw this game, and I thought it looked awesome. My brother got it. I played it for like a minute or two over his place once, and I thought it was really cool. But I always thought like, oh, I'll get this one day, just to experience myself. And I had it on my Steam wish list for a really long time, and I saw it was on sale 90% off this week, and I was like, how can I not get this? So I picked it up, started playing the other day, and you know it starts off as this beautiful 2D pixel art style game, which back then it wasn't overdone. It was like pretty
Right.
new. Uh, and it's a platformer. You're interacting with different characters in the town and stuff. There's some really awesome music, really great pixel art, and just for what it is, looks really great. But then you get to the main hook of the game, where you unlock this ability to kind of transfer the angle of the world, like the way you
Hmm.
look at it. So basically, everything that was once flat in 2D space becomes a cube, and you can kind of rotate that cube left or right. And the game is designed to accommodate that so well. Where if you're in a cube house, in the beginning when you just walk in, you just see like one wall. But later, when you're in there, you can rotate and see all four walls of the house, and they're all really well decorated. And some of them hold secrets and like little hideaways that lead to another room, and it just makes it really fun to explore. And like it's a great hook that is executed like particularly well.
Yeah, I remember playing Fez a lot back when it came out. I got it on the Xbox 360, and it was just so inventive. I remember being blown away because it's a pixel art style game, and I remember being blown away by how creative the game looked graphically, how inventive the whole idea of it was. Because like you'll have like a little block seemingly hovering off the side of the world, and then you press the button to shift it and it rotates to the left, and you realize it's a platform that you can actually jump up to, and you can get to a higher level.
Yeah, it made me think of Super Paper Mario, where that game had the shift of like you can kind of go behind Mario or like just turn around and do 2D side scrolling and like kind of play with the environments that way. But I think this
Right.
executes it better than that even.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If I had the choice, I would absolutely play Fez over Super Paper Mario. Like as much as I love Mario, Fez takes that like no questions asked.
Yeah.
All right, so what else you got?
I played some more For the King over this week with my brother. I talked about that on the pod a little while ago. It's like a voxel style RPG board game kind of thing that's on Steam right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's in early access, still being updated. They added some nice new additions to it. But unfortunately, there's still some bugs. Like we got stuck a few times where we beat a dungeon, but then it just crashed at the end of the dungeon, and we had to like restart and do it all over again. So that's kind of annoying. But they're well aware of that.
Right.
Um, and it's just a fun game to like plan and strategize. Like me and Nick were playing it one night, and like it was just so nice to be able to like sit down and be like, okay, you really have to work together in the game. So like we were it felt like us literally against the world. We're trying so hard to survive and fight all these different bad guys, and stop the chaos from collecting too highly. And the chaos is like a little purple ball that kind of accumulates over time, and if it hits up to 3, your game's over basically. But there are things that you can do on the board to reduce your chaos level, and the game really encourages a lot of teamwork and working together and trying to stay alive. And it's a great cooperative experience. It's a lot of fun to play. Uh, the only thing is that it's really punishing and hard. Like perhaps a bit too much so right now, where like we can only last a couple days basically before we either run out of hearts left when we all die, or the chaos fills, or like just even like the shift of the enemies, their level seems to jump way faster than ours, and like it's very tough to make it too far in that game yet. But I don't want to take that away from the game because again, it's really fun to plan and strategize that, and maybe the more we play, the more we would figure out kind of ways to get around there. But it's definitely grueling.
Yeah, sounds interesting. I don't recall ever being invited to play the game with you guys, but so
do you recall the multiple times this week I texted you and said, "Are you working tonight?"
I do.
Those were times where I was trying to get you to play that with us, but I figured since you were working to just let it go.
Well, I didn't know that, and I'm sorry.
But seriously, you should download this if you haven't already, so we can play this because it really is a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds awesome. I definitely want to give that a try.
Yes.
All right. You got anything else?
I actually have one more to talk about.
Man,
a game
you
that
have been busy.
What's that?
You have been busy.
Yeah, I told you.
Yeah,
I told you. And you
You're
took
not-
you took
you're
SteamWorld Dig 2 away from me, so that knocks another one off my list. But
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was gonna say this. This has been a really busy couple weeks for you.
that one more game I want to talk about, which I actually just beat this morning, and that is Life is Strange Before the Storm, Episode 3, Hell is Empty.
All right, man. I'm very disappointed with myself because I had to get off my dead ass and finish playing this game. So I have not beaten it yet. I wish I had, so we could discuss this after the recording. But unfortunately, I need to remain spoiler free.
My dead ass is pretty dead too, though, because it's been out since the 20th of December, and I only got it a couple days ago. I think Elena beat it before us because I saw her tweeting about it, and
Yes, she
that
did.
actually reminded me to pick it up.
Yeah, she did beat it, the entire thing, and she was left emotionally drained by the entire experience.
I'll say it's a really powerful conclusion that sticks the landing and is supported by some pretty stellar voice acting that, in the beginning, I remember in the beginning of episode 1 thinking like, oh, this might be a nightmare, like this doesn't feel right. But you can really see the progression of a lot of things throughout all these 3 episodes, like the voice acting, the animation, the environments, like just the overall look of the game. They all feel like they got better and better with each episode, and episode 3 is definitely like, the creme de la creme of these 3 episodes so far. The story's great. You know what's going on already. Of course, it all has to conclude with this episode, and it does very well. I really enjoyed the mild surrealism that they kind of took with this direction. Chloe's talks with her deceased father are particularly touching. I really appreciate them. I feel like he kind of, rightfully so, because he was not alive, but he really didn't spend a lot of time in the original Life is Strange, and they kind of made him like sort of a main character in this one, which is pretty cool, and it really helps us kind of relate to Chloe a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah, I just think the writing is phenomenal, and I actually will go on paper and say that Before the Storm is better than the original Life is Strange.
Oh,
and that
man.
is so
Listen
shocking
to
to me, especially
Shots
after how
fired.
it started. And, the fact that Deck 9, a different developer, was taking over than Dotnon, and, they were basically just fans of the series, but they really did a fantastic job. They were very faithful to the IP. I just really enjoyed this ride so much. There was some weird stuff in this episode, though. Like, I didn't know what to call it, so I called it weird attitude placements. Like, for example, you know how the game has, like, trophies for graffitiing different things around the area?
Right.
Yeah. So, there's parts, like, this isn't really a spoiler because you know this, but, like, things get really heavy in this episode. Like, a lot of big stuff is going down. And, like, Chloe is, like, very emotionally invested in what's going on, and she's noticeably shaken after, like, something heavy just happened. But, like, you can walk around an area, and it'll still say, like, graffiti, and her attitude will just, like, change to being, like, badass chick, and then, like, kind of just graffiti something, And then like there's a scene where you're in a hospital after something heavy happened, and like she's graffitiing. She walks over to like a vending machine and kicks it and like grabs the food out of it. And she's like, "Ha, nice," and like. But right before that, she's like almost crying because she's so upset at like what's going on. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it just doesn't.
Right. The tone was inconsistent at some points.
Yeah, yeah, and I know that they wanted to keep that like graffiti like mechanic thing in the game, but like I just feel like they could have maybe moved that elsewhere or like just kind of
They could have
made up
incorporated
for.
that a lot better, given the story. The story that was going on at the time.
Yeah, it definitely took me out of the story because I remember just kept thinking like she would not act like this right now. She would not be saying this stuff right now. Like it was just so weird to see her go from like very worried and concerned to like very like bullish and like have swagger. Like they just didn't blend well.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Did this did this leave any open questions for like going forward? Or did this kind of like put a nice little ribbon on a lot of questions that fans of the series would have?
I would say it leads very well into the original Life is Strange, and that's like a bittersweet thing because you've played through the original Life is Strange, you know what happens, and like Rachel Amber has a very big part in both these games, and like knowing what happens later is just such a bummer, man. Like I was just so bummed out at the end of it, and the way that
Right.
it kind of gives you a little sneak into the original Life is Strange, and like you kind of just remember everything that happened in that original one, and it just kind of gets you like right in the gut. Like it was a bummer, man.
Right. Because I mean, you remember uh, Chloe's devastation in the original game, and you kind of like the game. I suppose now I'm supposing because I haven't gotten it, but it gives you that same sense of like, oh, like now that you've gotten to know this character and you realize what she's about and who she is, you can really empathize with Chloe and understand her pain because that pain is also your pain as the player.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and it does it all so well. Again, like the writing is phenomenal. The environments are great. Like there's symbolism. There's just so much going on in this story, and to do it all in 3 episodes, I think is very impressive. I remember thinking, how the heck are they going to wrap all this up at the end of episode 2? And they nailed it. They did an excellent job on episode 3. Um, and yeah, Deck Nine fully won me over. They did an excellent job, and I'm looking forward to more from them. I'm looking forward to Nod's Life is Strange 2 whenever that comes out. I love this IP. I think it's going in a great direction, and it's really doing a lot for me for a visual storytelling type of game that I don't particularly like that often. But this made me feel like I was just watching something very interesting, like a really great show that I'm really invested in the characters in, and I didn't mind that I wasn't actually really playing a game at a lot of the parts. And I think that's really hard to do, and the fact that they did it so well is impressive.
You excited to potentially play the farewell episode, which is the bonus episode for Before the Storm?
So I didn't buy the deluxe edition, and I don't know if that's the only way to get that. So I might have to re-buy it again to play that. But
That would suck.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure I even want to play it though. I don't know. I gotta think about it.
Yeah, because I'm actually looking it up right now, and it is saying it's the only available as part of the deluxe edition of Before the Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a bummer. Yeah, it'll be the
Alright,
final
well,
chance for the player to play as Max.
yeah.
I
Well,
mean, it's
I'll have to see when that comes out and see if I can
yeah, we'll see if we
get it
can
up.
swing something at that point. But yeah,
Yeah.
it would be pretty cool if we were able to get that episode,
Yes.
especially since Hannah Tell and Ashley Birch are both returning to play Max and Chloe respectively for this episode.
Yeah. But once again, I gotta say how great I think her name is Rihanna Davis. Did for the voice of Chloe, and also the voice actress of Rachel. Like they both did a really excellent job. And I know this game had a lot of different voice actors because of the voice actors strike, but a lot of them really, really did great.
Awesome.
Whew. All right, I'm done talking for a while.
Are you sure? All done? You got any more games you played?
No, that's it for me for now. What do you say we hop right on into the indie arcade?
Indie arcade.
And let us hop right into the indie arcade. It's been a long while since we had the indie arcade. This is the first indie arcade of 2018. So that's exciting. If you all may remember, it's been a while again, but when we last had this segment, Elena was guest starring on the program, and she had assigned me the game Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime to play. Now, I've had a lot of time to play this game, and it's a co-op game, so I had a lot of time to try to scrounge up some time to play with some friends and get something together, and I was unable to. I was unable to find some time where I had free time and other friends had free time to be able to play the game together. So I wound up playing the game. They have a single player mode where your companion character is controlled by a CPU. So that's how I wound up playing the game.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's actually great.
Yes, so it does have a way to play the game by yourself. So let me take a step back. So, Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime. This game came out a couple years ago. It was developed and produced by Asteroid Base, which I believe this is... I'm not sure if this is their only game, but it's certainly their most high-profile release to date. It's a really interesting concept. So basically, it's years in the future, and scientists have harnessed the power of love. And they've been able to take love and spread it throughout the galaxy, and people and races all over everywhere know the power of love. But then these evil forces come in, and they destroy the love, and they start spreading the opposite of love, which is anti-love.
I'm confused.
No, it makes sense. So then...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, I had to reassure you of that.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
So now anti-love is spreading throughout the galaxy, and it's corrupting everyone. There's these evil aliens who are in control of the anti-love are starting to enslave these different races, and it's all kind of got this. It's kind of got this weird, like, I don't want to say like pixelated look, but everything is kind of like smooth, like everything has really rounded edges. It almost looks like paper cutouts, kind of, but a lot more smoothly animated than that.
I know what you're talking about, and I don't know if there is even a word to describe. Like,
yeah, I'm not sure how to describe the aesthetic of the game, but it looks really cool.
Shapy, like circle shapy.
Circle shapy. Yeah, it's got the circle shapy graphics.
Yeah, that's the
that's the official term.
Yeah.
And so it's got the circle shapy graphics, and all of the inhabitants of the world are different animals. Like you've got rabbits, and there are dogs, and these aliens are going around, and they're keeping a lot of these bunny rabbits, and they're bunny rabbit people, so they're like wearing clothes and they're running around and screaming because they're in trouble, and they're enslaving the bunny rabbit people in these cages. And so the head rabbit scientist, who was in charge of the love before the aliens came in and took it over with anti-love, the head rabbit scientist is like, oh no, we need to stop them. We need to destroy the anti-love and spread love throughout the galaxy again. So it's funny. Their main spaceship was a heart-shaped vehicle, and as the anti-love hit the heart, it literally split the heart in two. So it looks like a broken heart, and both halves are just kind of floating away from each other. And the rabbit scientist is in one half, and he's like, oh, we have an emergency prototype vehicle in the other ventricle of the heart, and that is an emergency vehicle we can use to like manually restore the love, and it can like travel around all over the place. And so what you do then is he sends out a signal that activates your ship, and you kind of progress around in the area, and you get all these different abilities. You get this, let me see. You have a little propulsion system. Now, the ship itself is like a circle, so it's a circular ship, so it's a sphere. And you get this propulsion system that can circle around the entire outside of it, so you can go in any direction you want, but you have to hold down the one button as you're holding the controls, and then you can rotate this control stick to point the propulsion system in whichever direction you need it to be in.
Okay.
And then you can move the ship that way. The inside of the ship has all these different control panels, and there's ladders getting to each one of the control panels. So at the top, the bottom, the left, and the right, there are guns on the outside. So different aliens and alien ships will show up outside of your ship as you're moving around, and they're going to try to shoot at you. So you have to get to one of the control panels and get control of the gun, and then you can shoot down the bullets, you can shoot down the aliens, and then they're going to slowly, like the aliens, if you don't shoot them, will rotate around you, and your gun won't be able to reach them, so you have to let go of that control panel, move in your ship to the gun that's now closest to where the aliens are, and shoot them with that gun.
Yeah, so you're doing basically a lot of multitasking.
There's a lot of multitasking, and this is where the co-op ability of the game really comes in, because you get a companion character that will help you control the ship. And I think you can have 2 players. It's just 2 players who can control the ship, and the 2 of you will go around, and there are lots of different controls and functions that you can use to protect the integrity of the ship. Like, there's a shield that, again, you go to the control panel, and the shield will protect a certain area of the outside of the ship. So any bullets that hit the shield will just immediately be vaporized, and they won't hurt the health of the ship itself. So now the trick of that is, though, there's lots of other different functions of the ship itself. So one of you can control the shield and move it around, but another one has to go to the guns and shoot down the aliens. So you have to decide, okay, do we shoot down the aliens, or do I shoot down the aliens and you control the shield? Or do I shoot down the aliens and then you go to the control panel and move the ship around to different areas? And so, like, that's part of kind of the give and take that the game is designed around, where if you have a companion, you can communicate with them and say, okay, here's what we need to do. You go to there, or you go to there, and we'll try to figure things out. And the object of each stage, there's a certain number of those rabbits I talked about that are in the cages, and they're either like sitting on these tiny little mini planets, or they're floating in space, and you have to collect up to 5 of them. There's like 10 or so in each stage, but you fly around the map and you collect at least 5 of them, and that unlocks like this little heart portal that will transport you to the next stage. So that's how you advance. And so
is the CPU partner, is he like helpful, or is it kind of just like a nuisance?
The CPU partner does what I tell him to do. The only thing that the CPU partner can't do is fly the ship. So,
Okay.
so I am the only one who can actually fly the ship around to different areas, and to control the CPU player, I have to hold down a button and then point to whichever control panel I want my CPU character to control at any one given point.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
so playing it by yourself, I gotta admit, is kind of annoying, and a bit frustrating at times, because say you want the character like, oh, he's controlling the shield, but then a bunch of enemies show up, like they show up on the top gun, like in front of there, but you're all the way at the bottom gun where there's already a bunch of different enemy aliens down there. So you're like, oh crap. So you're trying to shoot them down. You hold down another button to tell the computer character, hey, go to the top gun. And it's one of those things where you hold the button down and you point with the control stick. And you have to hold with the control stick when you release the button to confirm, yeah, go to the top one.
So
Because,
that, I can see how that gets annoying when things start to get pretty hectic.
yeah, when things get hectic, when you're surrounded by a lot of different enemies and you're trying to just move the ship along, yeah, it can get very annoying very quickly. If the CPU character was controlled by a human mind, then it would probably be a lot easier, and yeah, it would probably be more fun, because then they would think on the fly, okay, here's what I need to do, here's where I need to go, and they would just immediately go there. But with the
All right. Well, I think you and I should play this like next week if we can.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you would have a blast playing this game. It honestly is, yeah, it's a ton of fun. It's very silly and light in tone, so it's just a fun time. Just hop on and play for a couple hours. I think this game, it's yeah, I know it's on Steam. I'm not sure if it's on Switch or PS4 or something similar to that.
I know for a fact it's on Xbox because that's where I first saw it. It might be on PS4. I don't think it's on Switch.
Oh no, it
Um,
it says, I just looked it up. It is on PS4, Xbox One, Windows, Switch, and Linux.
oh, it is on Switch. Interesting.
Yes,
Okay.
it is on Switch.
I think it just came out on Switch. I think about
Yeah,
it.
it must have just come out. But yeah,
Yeah, I've been wanting to play this for a while. It was so funny that Elena recommended it to you. Because then like a few weeks prior to that, Butch and I were looking for a game to play, and I was like, "Oh, there's this game, Lovers in Dangerous Spacetime. I've been wanting to play it for a while. Let's get it." Then we both got it, and then we both realized that it's local co-op only. So
right.
we both like immediately refunded the game.
Yeah, that's the part of it that is annoying. If you have friends who are local who can like stop by and play the game with you, then yeah, I absolutely recommend it. Single player is a little too clunky. I wouldn't recommend playing that way. Definitely grab a friend and play the game with them. But yeah, ultimately, I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of potential, and I can't wait to play more of it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad I got to play it. I'm glad there was a single player mode, even though it wasn't that robust. But again, Elena, thanks for the suggestion.
Yes, thank you, Elena. So now, Justin, it is time for the first indie game assignment of 2018.
Yes, indeed, it is.
Yes. Now, I will admit, the pressure on myself to assign you just a truly garbage, terrible game right out of the bat was very high. But I
Before
decided,
you continue, I have to note and let you know that I do not forget the last game that you assigned me, even though it was a few weeks ago. But you assigned me Rabby Ribby, and I still have yet to pay you back for that. And I know it's not my turn, but I just want you to know that that is on the back of my mind. And depending on how you act this week, maybe it will tip my hand for next week.
I understand completely. And I was gonna say, I was going to give you a truly fun, quote unquote, game to play. But I decided not to this week. I decided to exhibit a little bit of mercy, and I'm giving you a game that I just kind of noticed while perusing the Nintendo eShop on the Switch, and it just kind of looked interesting to me. It's a slightly older game. It's been out for a couple of years at this point, but it's one that I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with. It looks really interesting. Justin, your indie arcade game is Guns, Gore, and Cannoli.
I've not heard of this.
Trust me, until I perused the Switch a little bit, I had not heard of this either. It's available on Steam and on the Switch eShop. So, Guns, Gore, and Cannoli, an over-the-top, comical, and fast-paced action game with hand-drawn graphics set in the roaring 20s, an all-you-can-shoot fest where you embody Vinny, a mobster with a mission in a city controlled by gangsters and plagued by zombies, featuring up to 4-man local co-op.
I'm looking at a video of this now, and I love the art style. The 2D hand-drawn is pretty cool.
Yeah, doesn't it look? It looks really, really well done.
And it's exceptionally gory.
It is very, very violent. As you imagine a game involving gangsters and zombies would be.
Wow.
But yeah, you will take on the role of Vinny Cannoli, and your mission is, I guess, to gain territory for your boss and take out these zombies that are plaguing the town. See?
Yeah. See.
Yeah. See. Gotta do something about these zombies. Yeah.
Did we ever decide a rule on like what platform we play it on, or that doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. I mean, as long as you play the game, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, because I'm not sure yet if I want to play this on my PC or on my Switch. I'll have to think about it.
It costs the same either way. It's $9.99 on Steam and on Switch right now. So either way, it would be fine.
Yeah, but all right, cool. This looks pretty interesting. I will definitely be giving this a go.
Mm-hmm. There is actually, it's funny, like, if you scroll down a little bit, you see coming soon is Guns, Gore, and Cannoli 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the game was popular enough to warrant a sequel.
Well, I got very positive reviews.
Yeah, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
All right, cool. Looking forward to that pick.
All right. So, what do you say we take a quick break?
Yeah, let's do that. And when we come back, we will each give our top 5 lists for our most anticipated games for 2018.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back. It's time for Chris and I to give our top 5 most anticipated games of 2018. And it's crazy. This is our first time that we're like redoing something that we've done already, you know, because it's been a full year. Like I can't believe it.
Yeah, that's the first time we're having like an annual segment on here, and it's like, oh, here's the second edition of this. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really funny to me. But hey, man, we've got a long way to go. We got a lot of stuff to cover here. I'm excited, man.
It's crazy. I can't remember the exact top five that I picked last year, and I was going to go back and listen to the old episode, but I just never got around to it.
I was going to kind of do a similar thing. I recall a few of the games that were on my most anticipated, but I know a few of them I never wound up playing because I'd heard so much bad press around them. Like Ukulele was on my list last
Oh,
year.
right.
Yeah, and I never picked that up. I mean, there's still time. Apparently, the Switch version of the game is actually pretty good, but I don't know. I'll have to look into it at some point.
I've heard that too. Yeah, but like you said, playtime to go look into that. But for now,
Yes.
we should focus on our top five most anticipated games from 2018.
Yeah, 2017 is in the rearview window. That's old news. That's ancient history. We don't care about 2017 anymore. We're looking forward, looking at 2018. 20 great teen.
Yes,
Live your best life.
that's pretty good.
Shout out to Nick for that one.
Yeah, it's true. I'm looking at my notes right now, and I just realized I wrote top five most anticipated games of 2015. I don't know why I wrote that. That's obviously not right.
Right. Man, I can't wait for The Last of Us.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
Oh, man. Or Uncharted 3.
Yeah, man. Great year for games.
All right. I'll start because I have the curliest hair.
All right, fine. Be that way.
My number five game, most anticipated for 2018, is actually a series that I have yet to play, and that is Far Cry 5.
Really?
Yes.
That is very interesting.
Far Cry 5 is coming out, supposedly, March 27th, 2018. And I'm mostly interested in playing this game because I was actually called for a focus group for Ubisoft a couple of years ago that actually wound up directly being for this game. And I just thought that was so cool. I was so pumped to be part of that. And they unveiled a bunch of stuff, and I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and I couldn't talk about it for over a year until it finally came out that this was the game that they were working on. And I'm curious to see if they took any of our suggestions from what it was back then to what it will be now, and and just to actually experience a Far Cry game. Back then I didn't have the PS4 or really any other stuff really outside Nintendo, so I never really did give the Far Cry series a chance. But I'm ready now. I've really been expanding my gaming horizons. Slowly getting into shooters a bit with Fallout 4 a couple years ago and Destiny 2 this year. So I'm really excited to try out this game and see what the hubbub is.
Did you suggest to them that the main character be a plumber and that the game be more platform focused?
Yeah, but they threatened to throw me out if I kept talking, so I just quietly sat in the corner and drank coffee for the rest of the meeting.
That is probably the safest course of action in that case. Ubisoft is a very big company and they have powerful lawyers.
It's actually funny. When we were there, a lot of what they were pitching was like, America fights for freedom and for guns, and it was a lot of like gun-heavy, gun-loving type of stuff set in like Midwest America, and we were all like, this kind of doesn't feel right now, especially with a lot is going on in society with like gun control, and like
Right.
I remember their statement said something like, this, the title character or whatever is going to save the world and protect the 3 F's of America: freedom, firearms, and something
Football.
else I don't remember. But like it just felt so uncomfortable with everything that was going on, and like in the political landscape, and like we all kind of tried to basically have a different way for them to kind of send that message. The leader, like the main bad guy, is kind of like a cult leader, and they played a video of him speaking to all these like citizens in like this chapel in Montana, and everyone in the chapel was like holding guns up into the air, and like it was just like a very grim, dark thing. And I'm really interested to see if they're just sticking with that or if they decide to tone it down a bit. But yeah, it'll be cool to see.
Now, at the time you were in the focus group, did you know that it was Far Cry 5, or were they like, hey, here's this game we're working on, and you just had no idea like what it was going to be?
I would say the first half of it, they were just kind of asking us about like what we thought of when we thought of Montana, and like they showed us like imagery of like Montana, and like it just made sense. And then in the second half, they unveiled that yes, it was the next Far Cry game. I remember filling out the form. They asked you what kind of games that you've played, and I put like Fallout 4, like a bunch of other, I had Zelda on there, Fallout 4, and like I can't remember what else, but the woman on the phone I was talking to was like, "Oh, I see you like Fallout 4. Do you like any other shooter games like that?" And I said, "Yeah, a couple." She was like, "Have you ever played Far Cry?" And I said, "No, not really." And she's like, "Have you ever played Far Cry?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "You should say you've played Far Cry." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I played Far Cry." And she's like, "All right, fine." And then like gave me the date for the thing and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she was really cool, helping me get in there.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I did know it was Far Cry 5. But yeah, again, we signed a lot of paperwork. Like, we couldn't talk about it, and I really want to see, because some of the stuff that they showed, some of the promotional artwork, the character design, all looked really interesting, and I'm pumped. I'm pumped to check it out.
I'm excited to see what comes from that. I had never played any of the Far Cry games myself, but yeah, from what I understand, they're very open world. You can do a lot in those games. You've got a lot of different options, and yeah, like you said, especially in without getting into it too much, today's political climate, the game feels like it's a bit on the nose. But we'll see when the game comes out. I'm looking forward to that one too.
Plus, a dog follows you around, and I love that.
All right, well, Game of the Year 2018 in the books right there.
All right, Chris, what is your number 5?
All right, my number 5. This one is a little interesting. This may come out of left field a little bit. This is one that's been on my radar for, I'd say, a month or two at this point since I first heard of it. And this is Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Oh, nice. My brother was telling me a lot about this game.
Yeah. This game looks really, really interesting. And let me see. It's going to be developed and published by Warhorse Studios. And it's interesting. This is their first game, and they're a Ukrainian developer. So you don't hear a lot about Ukrainian game development. And this is going to be an interesting first look into that. The game itself, if I had to describe the way it looks, it's kind of like Skyrim, where it's a first-person game and it's a medieval setting, but it's also historically accurate. It's set during 1400s Bohemia, which is like around like Eastern Europe, close to where the Ukraine currently sits. Bohemia was like an ancient kingdom from the Dark Ages, and it describes it's a historically accurate time period where there was like a battle between like one king was usurping another, and you as the player, among other things, your main quest is to put the rightful king back on the throne. And so the game doesn't feature a lot of magical elements, but it does feature a lot of different... it features a lot of combat. There's a lot of different... It's sort of a non-linear approach to the gameplay. Like, there's many different paths you can take to accomplish different goals. Like, if you want to infiltrate a castle, for instance, you could either just charge in, sword drawn, and just fight your way through, or you could just kind of sneak your way in. Like, you could sneak your way in. You could bribe one of the guards and give him a ton of gold and say, hey, let me in, and just kind of look the other way. You have a lot of different abilities there. And what I like, too, about the game is how it's just very highly interactive. So most different elements of the game, like, you can interact with a lot of the NPCs you can talk to. And what's interesting about the way the game is set up, too, is depending on how you talk to the different characters, that will affect your relationships with them, and it will also affect the quests that you're given by the characters. And what I mean is, like, say you're talking to a character and they ask you a question. If you take too long to answer the question, like if you take too long to press a button, they're going to look at you funny and be like, why'd you have to think about that for so long? It should have been a relatively straightforward answer. If you're given a quest, like, let's say a posse is being rounded up because a local farmhand was found murdered, and the posse is like, we're going to go hunt down the killer and bring him to justice. Will you join us? And you say yes. Now, the game itself is open world, so you can run around and do whatever you want. If you don't do that quest that you agreed to, the posse will get tired of waiting for you, and they'll go and they'll complete the quest without you. And then they'll be like, the next time you talk to them, they'll be like, we waited around for you forever, but you didn't show up. You're not a man of your word, and they won't respect you. Like, you'll actually be looked down dishonorably. Plus, you won't get any of the experience or rewards for beating that quest. So you have to be a man of your word. You have to do what you say you're going to do.
That's an interesting play on open world mechanics, and I'm also impressed. This game, from what I've heard, is supposed to be somewhat of a technical marvel, like one of the best looking games to date.
I will say the game does look interesting. Owing to that, though, I'd have to say, I think it was last week, I actually watched IGN had a quick look into the game, and I'm not going to lie, it looked a little... The graphics looked a bit dated, and the menu system looked a little clunky. Like, it kind of reminded me of something that you would see kind of in the early to mid 2000s. Like around when Oblivion was coming out. Like, it reminds me a lot of that look. And the menu system, like when you pause and the menu comes up, the menu system looks even more old school than that. Like, the menu will kind of like, imagine a door shutting where each end of the screen will like compress down and meet in the middle.
Okay.
And it almost looks like something you would see in like RuneScape or something similar to that.
Is this confirmed for like a solid date for 2018 yet?
Right now it has a launch date of February 13th.
Oh, so soon.
So it's relatively soon. So that's something I guess I'm a little concerned with. I think it needs a little bit more polish. The combat itself looks really fine. Again, it's really reminiscent of something you would see in like Skyrim. Part of the quick look that IGN had, you see your character as part of this small army, and you're charging into this group of bandits, and you're like attacking them, and you're like firing arrows like point blank into people's faces, and it's awesome. And it's it looks really cool. I'm excited for it. Honestly, like, before I saw that quick look from IGN, I had Kingdom Come Deliverance much higher on my list. But after seeing the way the game looked, I was kind of like, it soured me a little bit. So I knocked the game down a little bit, not enough to get it off my list, but not looking forward to it as much as I was before.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, but I'm still really looking forward to it. It still looks awesome. I'm hoping that this game is just going to blow me out of the water when it comes out, and yeah, I can't wait.
All right, cool.
So, what do you have next?
My number 4 is Lost Fear from Tokyo RPG Factory.
Ooh,
This game
what is that?
is the sequel to I Am Setsuna that came out 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Tokyo RPG Factory is a subsidiary of Square Enix. Their goal is to create RPGs that make you feel like you're playing, ones of yesteryear, like something that would be on the Super Nintendo. They cite Chrono Trigger as like a big inspiration for them.
Oh yeah, and you can tell just from looking at I Am Setsuna the influence that Chrono Trigger had.
Yeah, and I Am Setsuna, I was really looking forward to that game. I got it, I played it, I beat it. I wound up really enjoying it. But I also kind of agree with a lot of the flaws that people kind of saw in it and problems they had in it, where it felt kind of bland at times. The story got a little kind of crazy. The combat kind of sort of got a little easy. Like a lot of things that they kind of just thought weren't too great. And do you ever have one of those games that you've played that like it's not great, that there's a lot of things wrong with it, but you still really love playing it anyway?
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so like that's kind of how I felt with I Am Setsuna, because it really did, for me, it accomplished the goal that they were trying to make you feel like you were playing an old turn-based style RPG, something that would be on, the Super Nintendo era. And I think they nailed it. I think the music was fantastic in that game. Some people got really tired of the piano, but not me. I thought it was beautiful throughout. The winter environment of the game also tired a few people out, and again, I agree with that because it was really all you saw. But in the scope of the game, what they were going for, I thought it fit, so it didn't really bother me. I liked the characters. I really like Tokyo RPG Factory and what they're trying to do. So I will definitely be giving Lost Sphere a shot. It's coming out this month, actually, January 23rd. And it's going to be on Switch, too, which is great. And looking at a lot of the screenshots and videos, it's basically using the same exact engine from I Am Setsuna, where it looks very identical. Not only just the graphics of the game, but how it works, the menu system, the interface, the way the characters roll together. But I'm ready to go into that world again, and I'm interested to see if there are any changes or any improvements. And I'm looking really forward to playing another great turn-based style RPG. So yeah, January 23rd, I'll be downloading that one for sure.
Well, just a few days after that, I'm going to be downloading my number 4 most anticipated game of 2018, and I'm not entirely sure what's the proper way to pronounce it. It's either Dragon Ball Fighter Z or Dragon Ball Fighters.
It's gotta be Z, right? Like Dragon Ball Z. Like it's not
Dragon Ball Fighter. That's what I'm thinking too. Like Dragon Ball Fighters, Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Like I don't know. That just sounds like it rolls better than the other one. But yeah, this developed by Arc System Works, and it's coming out for PS4, Xbox One, and for Windows. And man, I love the Dragon Ball series just in general. Like, I mean, we all grew up watching Dragon Ball Z on Toonami each afternoon after school. And then, like, I remember, like, just, I fell in love with the characters then, and then, like, you kind of discover, like, the more adult version of the anime, where there's a lot more violence, a lot more blood, more cursing, and man, I just like fell head over heels in love with the entire series, with the characters, and a lot of the fighting games that had come out for Dragon Ball, they've kind of had that weird over-the-shoulder perspective, where the screen is split in two and you're zooming around an open world, well, kind of an open world.
Right.
And, you're just trying to, like, blast one another, like in the Budokai Tenkaichi games. And they looked interesting, I guess, but this game, just the dedication that they have. Arc System Works, they have a pedigree in creating fighting games. Like they've made the Guilty Gear and the Blaze Blue fighting series, which I have not played those games, but those games are very highly regarded, and a lot of fighting genre fans are extremely excited to have Arc System Works working on a Dragon Ball fighter.
Right.
And it's a more traditional fighter where it's on a 2D plane, and it's similar to something like Marvel vs. Capcom, where it's 3 versus 3. So you assemble a team of 3 fighters, and you go up against another team of 3, and whoever can knock out the other 3 fighters wins.
Who would be your 3?
Goku. That's just a given.
Yeah.
I would go Goku. Who would I have? That's a great question. I hadn't considered this before now. Definitely Goku. I would have Goku, Vegeta, and
Yamcha.
Oh, no. Never Yamcha. I would have Krillin before Yamcha.
Yamcha's like anime's fighting punching bag.
He really is. I mean, he literally died to the easiest, wimpiest enemies that like have ever existed. That does not bode well for Yamcha's character. No, I would have Goku. I would have Goku, Vegeta, and Gohan. Those would be my 3. The power, power trio.
That's a pretty good list.
That's a pretty damn good list, if I do say so myself. But yeah, it looks amazing. Like it's cel-shaded graphics, and the art style is very heavily inspired by the original manga by Akira Toriyama. So like there are actually times where you pull off a power move, and the different shots that are in the game are lifted directly from the actual manga itself. So
that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's literally like an exact homage to the original series. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. And I gotta say, I'm surprised because I'm not really much of a fighting game fan, but this just looks so good and it's so hyped up. I just love the Dragon Ball series so much that I can't see myself not picking this game up. So yeah, it definitely makes my list.
And that's coming out the 26th of January?
26th, yep.
That's crazy. I didn't know it was coming out so fast.
Yeah, it's coming out very soon. All right. What's your third?
My number 3 is it's the only indie game on my list. It's a game I didn't even hear about until a couple weeks ago at PlayStation Experience, and that will be Donut County.
All right, that's a good addition.
Yeah, I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but it's basically this really cartoony kind of voxel style game that's almost, people are calling it like a successor sort of to Katamari, where you control a hole in the ground and you have to kind of absorb all the objects that are on a stage with that hole. You move the hole around and like kind of get under certain things, and the hole has to be a certain amount of size to fit the correct objects. And it doesn't sound like that crazy of a concept of a game, but the art style really, really spoke to me, almost as much as the Night in the Woods art style spoke to me of last year. So I guess kind of going really on that alone, and just the overall presentation of the game, the music. I thought the way they presented the trailer was really fun. It stuck in the back of my head, and I'm really looking forward to just kind of mess around with that when that comes out. It doesn't have an exact date yet. It just says 2018. So, hopefully sometime this year we'll be able to play it.
All right. My number 3. I will say very quickly, I originally, on my number 3, I had A Way Out listed on here.
Right.
But then when I was researching, I realized the game is developed by Hazelight Studios, which is directed by Joseph Fares, but it's published by EA.
Right.
And as I've made clear on this show before, I do not support EA. So as much as it pains me, as much as I would love to pick up this game, I have to hold true and I have to hold firm. So A Way Out is not going to be on my list for this year.
Maybe that's something we should talk about on a later episode, because I'm not sure that's entirely fair.
Well, that's for another time.
Yes.
We'll discuss that at some other time.
Yes.
But for right now, what is on number 3 on my list, I have a tie for number 3. I couldn't really have one game on here and not the other, because these games are so similar. These games are Skull and Bones and Sea of Thieves.
Pirate Game 1 and Pirate Game A.
Exactly. I mean, these games are literally like so similar. It's very, very hard to tell them apart. Skull and Bones is the game that's developed and published by Ubisoft, and Sea of Thieves is developed by Rare. So Sea of Thieves is more of a that one is more of an Xbox proprietary system. It'll still be available on Windows and PC, but it's primarily going to be out on Xbox. Whereas Skull and Bones, the Ubisoft game, will be out on virtually all platforms except Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way the games are set up is they're pretty much just an open world pirate game. So you are the captain of a pirate ship, and you're sailing the seas, specifically around the Caribbean, and your objective really is just to grow your crew, defeat other roaming bands of pirates, stake your claim, and grow your treasure, and be the best pirate in the land. And it's funny because the game it's open world and it's massive multiplayer, so you'll be able to interact with other players, friend and foe alike, and you actually have the option. You can join up with a crew and you can work cooperatively, or you can work competitively. So different players, you can either try to take them out and sink their ships, or you can team up and ally yourselves and try to conquer the seas together. And now the game, like the Ubisoft version, Skull and Bones, that was chiefly inspired by a lot of the pirate sailing gameplay that was introduced in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. So that's where they got the idea for that game. Sea of Thieves, the Rare-developed game for Microsoft, because it's Rare, they have it's more lighthearted and a lot more cartoony in aesthetic and tone, but it's essentially the same gameplay and the same basic principle. Be a pirate and be the better pirate.
Right.
So they both games look really, really cool and interesting. The one advantage that Sea of Thieves also has over Ubisoft's Skull and Bones is crossplay will be available. So if, for instance, Elena has the game on Xbox and I have the game on PC, we can play together over the same server.
Yeah, which is awesome. And we're starting to see more games start to do that over the years. So if you asked me a couple years ago how I felt about Sea of Thieves, I would have had it ranked pretty highly. But I'm getting a little nervous with the game. I'm starting to almost feel like a No Man's Sky effect, where I just feel like over the past 2 years they really they really haven't shown a lot of just how the game works, and I know it's coming out pretty soon, and I still feel like I don't have a clear grasp of basically how this whole thing is going to work. And it's very identical to how I was feeling, prior to No Man's Sky's launch. And, I could be entirely wrong, and this could be a really great, fun game. But, like, I'm just very skeptical right now. So I need to see more, and I'm not getting it from them. And it's making me a little bit apprehensive.
I don't know. I feel like the game is going to provide enough gameplay to really sustain itself. I think No Man's Sky just kind of overpromised and underdelivered when the game launched. At this point, as I'm sure Nick will attest, the game has really improved a lot. It's not the same game that originally launched and that everyone decried way back when.
Absolutely.
But it still has that sour taste in its mouth, and first impressions are everything. I think, I think Sea of Thieves has a real chance to deliver on what it's setting out to, promise to the players as part of the experience. And I don't know, I just really want to be a pirate. I want to be a pirate. I want to be able to get launched out of cannons and do all sorts of fun mayhem and slaughtering.
Yeah, no, I'm pulling for them. I really hope it is great and it's a lot of fun. Just for me personally, I'm looking at it on a wait and see approach. I'll probably wait till after it comes out. Maybe go over your place and watch you play it and like see if it's something that I want to invest in.
Right. That's fair. All right. So what's next for you? What's your 2?
My number 2 is also coming out this month, which is crazy. I can't believe that we have 3 games all coming out this first month of the year. But that would be Monster Hunter World coming out on January 26th.
This is the game before we recorded that I predicted was going to be very high up your list.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gotta be honest. I'm a little surprised that it's not number 1. I'm curious to see what your number 1 is. Although now that I think of it, I think I can guess.
Well, I'm super stoked for this game. Mainly just the fact to play together with everybody. We've all played a lot of Monster Hunter together before, and I think the biggest knock of the game for me was it was a game on a handheld system that did not feel like it should be on a handheld system. I don't think it worked well on a handheld system. When you're fighting, grand scale monsters in these big open environments, to have that crammed to a small screen, it didn't feel like the way to present that. And the most Monster Hunter I ever played was when Tri was re-released for the Wii U, and that was, of course, on a console on a big screen. And looking forward to this game, I was getting pumped. I was a little nervous because I heard that they were going to be making some changes to make it a little bit more palatable for, us here in the West. And then they had their beta a couple weekends ago. And it felt like they really didn't change that much differently of the core game. They just kind of presented everything a lot better. And that kind of had me feeling a little bit more at ease. The game looked great. It played great. The online was running fine. And to have this giant, grand Monster Hunter experience on a console, looking the best it's ever been, to play, with all of you guys again, like, I'm just really excited for it. And I almost can't believe that it's only a couple weeks away.
Yeah, it's really stepping up. I mean, these Monster Hunter games, when they come out, they really are a phenomenon, and it's starting to really creep over now to the West a lot. And I mean, over in Japan, these games had always been like, oh, it's Monster Hunter, and now that same sense is creeping over to the West. And I feel like Capcom is now finally realizing that, and they're allowing this series to become the global phenomenon that it needs to be.
Yeah, definitely. And on a personal level, I think that it's working already. I had mentioned to Dave to download and play the beta with his friends, and none of them have ever played Monster Hunter before, and they wound up absolutely loving it, and they're just excited as we are to get the game when it comes out at the end of the month. So, they've definitely Capcom has taken the right steps in the right direction to kind of have this be a more inclusive experience. And yeah, I mean, I'm just so pumped to play this game.
Nice.
All right, what's your number 2?
All right, my number 2, and this is a game that is going to inspire me to get off my dead ass once again and play the original game, and this is Red Dead Redemption 2. Yeah, this is a game that I've heard so much about, and I've seen hyped up, God, it's been hyped up for years now at this point. Justin, you played the original Red Dead Redemption.
I played and loved the original Red Dead Redemption.
Right. So
it should be noted that I played that last year. It was a late game pickup thing for me, and it still felt, great to play. It didn't feel dated, and just was an incredibly enjoyable experience for me.
Right. I mean, yeah, Rockstar, they really know what they're doing over there. I mean, it's been a while since they've put out an original game. I think their last original release was Grand Theft Auto 5. Yeah. But I mean, every single game they've put out, they've really knocked out of the park. And Red Dead Redemption, by all accounts, is no exception to that. I don't know why. The game just simply passed me by last generation. So I really need to pick that up at some point and give that a go, because I've heard from everywhere that it's just an absolute classic. And I want to be able to play this game so that way I'm better prepared for when Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out. Because now it's a prequel to the first game. So it's going to offer, I think, a lot of the same gameplay, but it's going to introduce a lot of different characters and get you used to being with... now, who's the main character? James Marsden?
John Marston. I believe?
John Marston. Yeah, I'm excited to give this one a try. I mean, this right now is probably the biggest hyped game of the year, and I'm really excited to look it over and give it a shot.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you literally took the number 1 out of my mouth, because that is my number 1 most anticipated game of 2015, Red Dead Redemption 2. I do have 2 question marks next to the end of it, because it was already pushed back once. Right now it's slated for a spring 2018 release. This is going to be such a grand scale game that Rockstar, I think, is going to have a lot riding on. I would not be surprised if this gets pushed back again, perhaps even into 2019. But for right now, I'm going to take them for their word and hope that it is going to come out in spring of 2018. But yeah, man, I mean, you're absolutely right. The first game was so great. I know you'll find time to play it, and you're going to just fall in love with it. Rockstar, they do an excellent job at world building, at storytelling, at character development. I feel like even if this took place in a whole different setting, it would be just as good of a story. I think why people resonated with this first game so much was just how great of a character John Marston is, and to see him go through this redemption arc is just such great writing. And it was to play a game that came out, man, I don't even know, maybe 8 years before I even actually sat down to play it, and have it resonate with me as much as it would if somebody who had just gotten it on the day of release. That really said something. And Rockstar's had a lot of time, as you said, between Grand Theft Auto 5 and this. I'm sure they've been working on this for a long time. I believe it's Rockstar San Diego is the team that's working on this game. And they've promised a robust online experience as well, which would be interesting. I know that Grand Theft Auto 5's online turned out to be a surprise hit, and so much so that Rockstar is still to this day adding new content to that. And Grand Theft Auto 5 has been out for almost 5 years now, I think.
Right.
So this game has a lot to live up to. They're promising a lot. They showed a couple trailers. There's some really great screenshots. I had one on my Twitter background for last year. I just updated it again today with another one. I love the style of the game. I'm a big sucker for Western style stuff, and yeah, I'm just super pumped for this game. And I'm really hoping that it does come out this year, because it is my number 1 most anticipated game of 2015.
My number one most anticipated game is the Yoshi game for the Switch.
Oh, nice.
No, it's not. I am looking forward to that, but that is not among my top 5 most anticipated games.
The
Much as I love Yoshi,
untitled Yoshi game.
yeah, Untitled Yoshi, which I hope they keep that title.
Untitled Yoshi game 2018.
That'd be a very bold direction for the Yoshi franchise. No, my number one most anticipated game for 2018, and it's currently slated for 2018, but just like Red Dead Redemption 2, could be delayed. Not sure yet. Is God of War.
This was the game that I thought would be on your list.
Yep, and you thought correctly. Yeah, God of War. Hard to believe that this is Sony's Santa Monica Studios. It's gonna be their first game for the PS4. Like, can you imagine? Like, that's such a high-profile studio for them, and this is their first original game for the PS4.
Now, I know how much of a God of War fan you are. I remember years ago you telling me about your playthrough of the first God of War game, and then how you immediately got the second one. So I know you're just absolutely pumped for this game.
Oh man, I am so excited for this. I'm really interested in a lot of the directions that Cory Barlog is taking with the game. He's the new head director. He's a new creative director behind the game, and probably the like a couple of the biggest changes narratively. Instead of being focused on Greek mythology, they're transitioning over to Norse mythology, which is really interesting to me. I'd always really loved Greek mythology growing up, but I never really knew all that much about Norse mythology in that same vein. Like, I'm aware of Norse mythology, but I don't really know all that much about it on an intimate level. So to see God of War tackle a whole new subject material is going to be really interesting, because those writers and the creatives behind these games, they do a lot of research to ensure that everything is as accurate to the original myths as is possible. So it's definitely going to be a lot of learning material on that sense. In the same token, the gameplay is kind of it's going to be completely overhauled, whereas the original God of War game sort of had a fixed camera behind Kratos, where Kratos was centered in the middle of everything, and he would spin around with his double blades that were chained to his bones, and he could like throw out and retract at a moment's notice.
Right.
They've completely overhauled that gameplay element, where now Kratos' main weapon, because he lost those blades at the end of God of War 3, so his weapon of choice now is the Leviathan Axe. And the Leviathan Axe can be imbued with a lot of different elements, like frost magic and fire magic, and you can throw it and you can freeze enemies. Obviously, you can hack them up. You can throw the axe and it will kind of retract, similar to Mjolnir from Thor. You know, the hammer that he throws.
You're right.
So it'll like he'll throw it and it'll like come back into his hand. And most interestingly, from a narrative and gameplay perspective, is Kratos is a dad now, and his son is named Atreus. And he's going to be a companion character throughout the game, and Kratos, he's going to try to control the rage that has always been simmering in him, and he's going to try to teach his son to be a better person in this world that he's leaving for him. At the same token, well, he's trying to teach himself to be a better person. And from a gameplay perspective, Atreus can be used to traverse a lot of different terrain that Kratos himself can't. He can like help you solve puzzles. He can also help in different combat situations by distracting the enemy so that you can get in a clean shot on them. It's funny, too, because the developers themselves have said that Atreus is not going to be a burden, which...
Well, that's
which,
great.
I mean that's fantastic. But I mean, companion characters in most other games up to this point have always been a burden. Yeah, I immediately am flashing back to Resident Evil 4, and I could just hear in my... help me, Leon! Just in my mind's ear, and I'm just like, oh, damn, I gotta help Ashley again. So, yeah, I hear the developers just explicitly say Atreus will not be a burden, and I'm immediately raising an eyebrow like, oh, really? Yeah, well, I'll be the judge of that. Yeah, once the game comes out, we'll see exactly how much of a burden this kid really is. But I don't know, I'm really excited for the change in direction, both in the gameplay, both in the tone of the story, the look of everything. The Norse gods are going to play heavily in this version, and what's interesting is they know Kratos is in their realm, and they are giving him one hell of a side eye because they know what he did down in Greece to the Greek gods down there. So they're like, we gotta watch out for this guy so he doesn't pull the same shit on us Norse gods up here.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're gonna be plotting against you in that regard. So yeah, man, I'm really excited for this new entry. I'm pumped. I can't wait to finally pick this game up and give it a go.
Not to mention his sick beard.
Oh, his beard kicks ass. He this is a man who has definitely been through the ringer and back.
It might be top gaming beard of 2018.
I don't know. It's a very early year. We'll have to determine. We'll have to see exactly who comes out with the best beard. Maybe that can be a Game of the Year category for us when all's said and done.
It very well could.
Yeah, but we have time to figure that out. But yeah, that's my top 5.
All right. Yeah, these are both great lists. Plenty to look forward to within the year.
No, I agree completely. We got a few games to look forward to. Although, as we mentioned at the start of the podcast, quick note: I did notice that none of my games are explicitly coming out for the Switch. In fact, none of my games that I have listed are scheduled to come out on the Switch at all.
Mm-hmm.
So that in and of itself is kind of interesting. I mean, I'm sure the Switch will have a lot of other games coming out to keep their momentum going, but right now, based on what I know is coming out in 2018, there's really nothing coming out for the Switch itself that is really blowing me out of the water.
Yeah, and it's hard, not just in terms of Nintendo, but of all platforms this year. There's not a lot of concrete dates, and a lot of it is just 2018 or late 2018 or something. And it's kind of hard to even consider games where they're not sure enough to give you, confident enough to give you an exact date. So you kind of have that in the back of your head now, I know a lot of Nintendo's strategy was for this year to get a lot of great content out to support the Switch launch, and I think they did a great job on that. But they might have kept themselves a little bit dry for this year. But then again, we don't know. I mean, we know stuff that is in the works. We know they're getting a lot more indie support. We know they're in the process of getting a lot of ports of a lot of third-party games coming over, getting a lot more third-party interest. And also, they have a Direct coming on the 11th. Is that correct? The 11th, I think?
That is true. The January 11th, we have, I believe it's their annual big Nintendo Direct. So they're kind of outlining things for the coming year. So, yeah, we'll see what Nintendo's got going for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's going to wrap us up this week.
I think it is too, Justin. Great episode. Good job.
Yeah, it's great to be back. It was a great break, but we've got plenty of content to bring you this year and some big plans that are on the way. So stay tuned.
All right. Yeah, I can't wait.
All right, that's all for this week. Remember, Press A repeatedly posts new episodes Mondays on iTunes, Google Play, and Podbean. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to rate and review the show or tell your friends about us. It helps other people find the podcast and will really help us grow. And thank you to all who have rated, reviewed, and subscribed so far. We love you.
You can follow us on our Facebook page and on Instagram at Press A Repeatedly. We are also on Twitter at Press A Repeatedly. I'm at cgold113 and Justin is at oaf7724. You can email us any questions or comments at parpodcast@gmail.com. That's all for this episode. Chris and Justin signing off. And remember, to fire a barrage of bullets and burst through the barricade, press A repeatedly.
That's some serious alliteration.
Stay tuned, 2018, the year of alliteration.